Capricorn, why they ghost without closure when this is said. You were having a normal conversation, maybe even a healthy discussion, and then you said something, a sentence, a few words that seemed harmless. And when you looked again, Capricorn had disappeared, without explanation, without confrontation, without closure, just permanent silence. And the worst part? You don't even know exactly what you said wrong. Capricorn is the only sign that can cut you out of their life without ever telling you why. They don't block you in a fit of rage. They don't send long messages explaining their feelings. They simply disappear. And you're left there, replaying the conversation 1,000 times, trying to figure out where it all fell apart. But here's what nobody tells you. When a Capricorn ghosts someone without giving closure, it's not cruelty. It's protection. Because for them, explaining would be giving power to someone who has already proven they don't deserve access to their inner world. There are specific phrases that trigger this extreme defense mechanism in Capricorn. Words that, to you, may seem like just a casual observation, constructive criticism, or even a joke. But for Capricorn, they are the final confirmation that you don't understand them. And worse, you don't respect them. And when Capricorns come to that conclusion, they won't waste time trying to educate you. They won't expend energy explaining why their words hurt. Because in their minds, if you truly knew them, you would never have said that. So they do what they do best. They cut you out of their lives with the surgical precision of someone removing something toxic. No drama, no explanation, no last chance for you to justify yourself. And there you are, with unread messages, ignored calls, an absence so absolute that it feels like you never existed in their lives. In this video, I'm going to reveal exactly which words cause this ghosting without closure, why Capricorns refuse to explain, and most importantly, what's really going on in their minds when they decide you don't even deserve a final conversation. Because when a Capricorn ghosts someone, it's not impulsive, it's decisive. And understanding why can be the difference between keeping or losing someone you value forever. Before we begin, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This kind of in-depth content about Capricorn only reaches you because of your support. And believe me, you'll want to save this video to watch it again. Let's begin. The primary reason why Capricorn ghosts without closure is devastatingly simple. Explaining would be giving power to someone who has already proven they don't deserve it. Capricorns don't see closure conversations as healthy or necessary. For them, the moment you cross the line was closure. Anything else would just be a waste of emotional energy they're not willing to invest. Imagine an ancient castle, built stone by stone over centuries. Each stone represents a value, a principle, a part of Capricorn's identity. And you, without realizing it, tried to remove one of these fundamental stones with your words. Capricorn isn't going to give you an architecture lesson explaining why that particular stone was essential. They're simply going to close the castle gate. Forever. Here's what really happens. When you say certain things to a Capricorn, you're not just making a mistake. You're revealing a fundamental incompatibility of values. And Capricorn has learned, through painful experiences, that trying to explain their values to someone who doesn't naturally understand them is a losing battle. It's like trying to explain color to someone who has never seen it. The words exist, but true understanding does not. Externally, when Capricorn ghosts, it appears cold. It appears calculated cruelty. It appears a lack of empathy. But internally, Capricorn is protecting something sacred. They are protecting the last reserve of hope that there are people out there who will understand them without them having to constantly explain themselves. Because here's the truth that Capricorns silently carry. They've spent years of their lives trying to explain who they are, trying to justify why they take certain things seriously, trying to make people understand that commitment, loyalty, and consistency aren't outdated concepts, but fundamental pillars. And each time they tried to explain and weren't understood, a small part of them died. Until eventually they learned. It's better to simply remove incompatible people than to waste energy trying to convert them. Have you ever felt the weariness of having to repeatedly explain why something matters to you? of having to justify your values as if they were arbitrary choices and not fundamental parts of who you are? Capricorns feel this constantly, and ghosting without closure is the ultimate response to this exhaustion. Think of Capricorn as a teacher who has spent years trying to teach the same lesson, and then one day realizes some students simply don't want to learn, not because they are incapable, but because they don't value the knowledge being offered. This teacher isn't going to continue teaching an empty classroom. He's going to quietly lock the door and look for students who actually want to be there. So, when Capricorns ghost you without explanation, they're not being cruel. They're being efficient. They're saving the energy they would spend trying to make you understand something that, if you really knew them, you would never have done or said. And for Capricorn, this emotional efficiency isn't coldness. It's self-respect. The second reason is even deeper. Giving closure would validate that you still deserve access to Capricorn's time and emotional energy. And the moment they decided to ghost you, you've already lost that privilege. Capricorns have a unique relationship with time. For them, time is not just a resource. It's the most valuable currency they possess. And they are extremely selective about who they invest that time with. Imagine a master craftsman who spends months creating a unique piece. Every minute invested in that creation has meaning. Every detail matters. And then someone takes that work and treats it as something disposable, common, replaceable. The artisan isn't going to sit down with that person and explain the value of the artwork. Because if the person doesn't see the value on their own, no explanation will make a difference. The artisan will simply take the artwork from that person's hands and never create anything for them again. Capricorn is that kind of craftsman. And the relationship with you was the work of art. Here's what few people understand. When a Capricorn invests in you, they're making a calculated bet. They're saying, I believe you're worth my time. That building something with you will bring emotional, intellectual, or mutually valuable returns. And they watch, constantly, silently, analyzing whether the investment is paying off. When you say certain words that reveal disrespect, disloyalty, and a lack of understanding of their values, Capricorn instantly calculates, the return on that investment is gone. Continuing would be throwing good time after lost time. And in the world of Capricorn, wasted time is the greatest tragedy. Externally, ghosting seems like an impulsive decision, a moment of anger where Capricorn acts without thinking. But internally, it was the most calculated decision they've ever made regarding you. Because here's what was happening behind the scenes. Capricorn had been gathering data for a long time. Small inconsistencies on your part. Moments where you didn't reciprocate their loyalty. Situations where you showed you didn't take seriously what they take seriously. And they filed all of that away. Not with active resentment, but with clinical observation. Assembling a complete picture of who you really are. And when you said those specific words that caused the ghosting, you weren't giving Capricorn any new information. You were confirming all the suspicions they already had. And the final confirmation doesn't deserve a conversation. It deserves decisive action. Have you ever invested deeply in something, a project, a relationship, a goal, and then realized you were wasting your time? And do you remember that feeling of absolute clarity when you decided to stop? That's exactly how Capricorn feels. And this clarity doesn't come from a desire to debate or explain. It comes from a desire to immediately redirect their energy towards something that truly matters. Think of Capricorn as a seasoned financial investor. They study each investment meticulously. They track performance. They calculate risks. And when a stock starts to consistently decline in value, they don't call the company's CEO asking for explanations or trying to fix the investment. They simply sell and move the capital to where there is real growth potential. You were a stock in Capricorn's emotional portfolio, and the ghosting was the final sale. So, when a Capricorn disappears without closure, understand this. It's not because they lack the means. It's because words would cost them time, and you're no longer worth that investment. And for Capricorn, recognizing this early and acting decisively is not cruelty. It's wisdom. It's protecting the most precious resource they possess, the time of their lives. And they're not going to waste another second explaining this to someone who has already proven they don't understand the value of what was being offered. The third reason is possibly the most painful. Capricorn believes they've already explained everything through their actions, and you simply weren't paying attention. For Capricorns, actions are language, and they've been speaking to you all along through their behavior, consistency, and practical demonstrations of who they are and what they value. If you didn't hear, a verbal explanation now would be useless. Imagine a virtuoso musician playing a complex symphony for an audience. Every note has meaning. Every pause is intentional. Every bow movement communicates profound emotion. And then, at the end, someone from the audience raises their hand and asks, "But what were you trying to say with that song?" The musician won't translate the symphony into words. Because if you don't understand the language of music, words won't make you understand it any better. Comprehension should have already happened through experience, not through explanation. Capricorn is that musician, and his life with them was a symphony. Here's the devastating truth. Capricorns show who they are through consistent actions. They show up. They keep their promises. They are reliable when everyone else has failed. They keep their word even when it's inconvenient. And while they do all this, they are silently communicating. See how I treat commitment. See how I value consistency. See how loyalty manifests itself in actions, not empty words. And they assume, perhaps naively, that you're paying attention, that you're learning their language, that you're understanding what's important to them through what they do, not what they say. So, when you say or do something that violates those values they've demonstrated 1,000 times over, Capricorn doesn't see it as a misunderstanding. They see it as deliberate negligence. Externally, ghosting seems to come out of nowhere. It appears to be a disproportionate reaction to just one sentence. But internally, Capricorn is processing. I spent months, maybe years, showing this person who I am. And they just revealed that they never really saw me. Never really understood, never really paid attention. And here is the silent pain that Capricorns carry. They feel invisible even when they are present. They do so much, demonstrate so much, deliver so much through their actions. And yet, people treat them as if they were strangers. As if their actions hadn't communicated anything. As if all that consistency was just happening without meaning. Have you ever felt like you were shouting, but nobody was listening? Not because you didn't have a voice, but because the people around you simply weren't paying attention? Capricorns feel this constantly, and eventually they stop shouting. They stop trying to make themselves understood, and they simply distance themselves from those who can't or don't want to hear them. Wait a second. Before we move on to the next reasons, I want to know from you. Have you ever felt this way? Have you ever tried to communicate through actions, consistency, presence, and realized that the other person simply wasn't seeing who you really were? Leave a comment below. Share your experience. Because this is a pain that goes beyond Capricorn. It's a human pain of not being truly seen. Let's continue. Think of Capricorn as a writer who spends years writing a book. Each chapter carefully constructed. Each word chosen with intention. And then someone reads the book in 20 minutes, skips parts, and at the end says, "I didn't understand the message. Can you explain it to me?" The writer isn't going to sit down and summarize what took years to build. Because the message was there. On every page. In every paragraph. And if you didn't find it, it wasn't because it wasn't clear. It was because you didn't read carefully. So, when Capricorn ghosts you without explanation, understand this. They've already explained it 1,000 times. Through every consistent action. Through every promise kept. Through every moment they showed up when others disappeared. And if you still don't understand who they are after all this, a final conversation won't shed any light on anything. It will only confirm what Capricorn already knows. You weren't paying attention. And people who don't pay attention don't deserve more performances. They deserve absence. And Capricorn delivers exactly that. The fourth reason cuts deep. Having a closure conversation would require Capricorn to be vulnerable with you. And the moment you decided to ghost, you completely lost the privilege of seeing that vulnerability. Capricorns guard their vulnerability like a buried treasure. Very few people gain genuine access. And when you cross that invisible line, you not only lose access, you reveal that you were never worthy of it in the first place. Imagine a high-security vault that holds the most important documents of a lifetime. Memories, traumas, deepest hopes, darkest fears. Capricorns spend years deciding if you deserve the combination to that safe. And maybe, eventually, they start sharing. One number at a time. Testing if you'll protect what's being entrusted to them. And then you say something that reveals that not only did you not value access, but that you never understood the responsibility that came with it. At that moment, Capricorn doesn't just change the combination. They move the safe to a different location, and you'll never even know where it is again. Here's what few people understand about Capricorns. Explaining why something hurt them requires them to admit that they were hurt. And admitting to being hurt is vulnerability. For most people, this is normal. It's part of healthy communication in relationships. But for Capricorn, vulnerability is a rare gift. A gift only given to people who have proven, over time, that they will treat it with reverence, not carelessness. When you say something that crosses the line, you're demonstrating that you don't know how to handle vulnerability with care. So Capricorn immediately removes all vulnerability from the equation. Ghosting without closure is the most effective way to do this. Because any honest conversation about why they're hurt would require them to let their guard down. And you've just proven that it's not safe to do that to you. Externally, a Capricorn disappearing without explanation seems like emotional coldness. It looks like someone who doesn't feel deeply. But internally, it's exactly the opposite. Capricorns feel so deeply that they need to build fortresses around those feelings. And these fortresses aren't meant to keep people away out of cruelty. They're meant to protect a sensitivity that, if exposed to the wrong people, would be destroyed. Here's the unspoken truth. Capricorn isn't cold. Capricorn is cautiously protective of a heart that's already been broken by sharing too much with those who didn't deserve it. And every time someone accuses them of being closed off, of not opening up, of not communicating, it only reinforces their belief that people don't understand the emotional cost of true vulnerability. Have you ever completely opened up to someone and had it used against you? Or dismissed as if it didn't matter? And after that, how many times did you think twice before opening up again? Capricorns experience this constantly. And eventually, they stop opening up. Not because they don't want connection, but because they've already paid too high a price for connecting with the wrong people. Think of Capricorn as someone who offered you a rare flower, one that takes decades to bloom. And you, without realizing its value, treated it like an ordinary garden flower. Capricorns aren't going to give you a botany lesson explaining why that particular flower was special. They'll simply stop showing you the garden. Because if you don't recognize value when it's offered, you don't deserve the privilege of being in the space where valuable things grow. So, when a Capricorn ghosts you without explanation, understand this. It's not because they don't have deep feelings about what happened. It's because those feelings are too deep to be shared with someone who has already proven they don't know how to handle them. Closure would require vulnerability. And vulnerability is a gift that Capricorn doesn't give twice to the same person. You had your chance, and you missed it. And now, what Capricorn offers is not explanation. It's absence. And this absence is the clearest possible way of communicating. You are no longer safe for me. The fifth and final reason is the most psychologically complex. Ghosting without closure is the only way Capricorn has found to maintain control over their own internal narrative and avoid being manipulated by the justifications of those who hurt them. Capricorns have learned, through painful experiences, that giving people the opportunity to explain, to apologize, to clear up the misunderstanding, often results in Capricorns being convinced to give more chances than they should. And this leaves them vulnerable to cycles of emotional abuse. Imagine a judge who needs to make an important decision. All the evidence has already been presented. The verdict is already clear in their mind based on objective facts. And then the accused asks for one last chance to speak. And this speech is so eloquent, so emotional, so convincing, that the judge begins to question his own judgment, even when all the evidence points to the contrary. Capricorn has learned to be the judge who doesn't listen to the final speech. Not because they lack compassion, but because they've been manipulated too many times by pretty words that weren't backed up by actions. So they make their decision based solely on the evidence. And they leave the room before any emotional appeal can cloud the clarity they took so long to achieve. Here is the devastating dynamic that Capricorn has learned to avoid. You cross the line with words or actions. Capricorn feels the need to get away, but they give you a chance to explain. You explain it convincingly, perhaps even with genuine tears. Capricorn, who deep down wants to believe in the best of people, gives another chance. The pattern repeats itself. Capricorn eventually realizes that they were manipulated into staying longer than they should have. After experiencing this cycle a few times, Capricorn learns. The only way to break this pattern is to not allow stage 3 to happen. If there's no closure, there's no opportunity for manipulation. There's no chance that well-chosen words will make Capricorn question what their instincts already know to be true. Outwardly, this makes Capricorn seem inflexible, stubborn, and unforgiving. But internally, it's Capricorn protecting its mental clarity, protecting its ability to trust its own judgment. Because here is Capricorn's secret fear, that they are easily manipulated when their heart is involved, that their loyalty can be used against them, that their desire to believe the best in people can blind them to who people really are. So, when they ghost, it's not just about you. It's about them. It's about maintaining integrity with their own perceptions. It's about not letting the need to be fair or mature lead them to tolerate behaviors that violate their core values. Have you ever made a difficult but necessary decision, only to have someone convince you to back down, and then immediately regretted it? How many times have you thought, I should have trusted my first instinct? Capricorns experience this repeatedly, and eventually they decide, my first intuition is sacred, and I will no longer allow persuasive words to make me question what I already know to be true. Ghosting without closure is the way to honor that decision. Think of Capricorn as a military general who needs to make strategic decisions. He analyzes the battlefield, assesses risks, and makes a decision based on objective intelligence. And then, the enemy calls for peace negotiations. And the general knows that negotiations are often tactics to buy time, to create confusion, to weaken the resolve. So the general refuses the meeting, not because he's cruel, but because he's seen this tactic before. And he knows that the only way to maintain a strategic advantage is to act decisively without giving the opponent a chance to manipulate the situation. You are not Capricorn's enemy, but when you cross the line, you became a threat to their inner peace. And Capricorn deals with threats strategically, with swift removal and no negotiation. So, when Capricorn ghosts without giving closure, the ultimate and deepest reason is this: they are protecting their own ability to trust themselves. Because Capricorn has doubted himself before. He has ignored red flags by giving people the benefit of the doubt. He has stayed longer than he should have because nice words convinced him to ignore problematic actions. And each time they did that, they lost a little self-respect, a little confidence in their own judgment. Ghosting without closure isn't about punishing you. It's about Capricorn finally honoring their own perception, finally choosing clarity over chaos, finally deciding that their inner peace is worth more than being seen as mature or communicative. Does this seem cold? Perhaps it is. But it's the only way Capricorn has found to survive emotionally in a world where words are cheap, but actions reveal truths. So here's the full truth about why Capricorn ghosts without closure. It's not because they don't feel. It's because they feel too much that it's not because they're cruel. It's because they've been hurt too many times for being kind that it's not because they are inflexible. It's because flexibility has always been interpreted as weakness. The central conflict for Capricorns is this: they crave deep connection, but have learned that true vulnerability is dangerous. They want to be understood, but are tired of having to explain themselves. They want to give chances, but have already given too many chances to the wrong people. So they develop the most efficient defense mechanism that exists: silent disappearance. And here's the heartbreaking part. Capricorns don't want to be like that. They don't wake up wishing they were the sign that cuts people off without explanation. They aren't proud of being seen as cold or distant. But they learned that the alternative, opening up, explaining, providing closure, allowing conversations, often results in more pain, more manipulation, more time wasted on people who demonstrate through words what they never demonstrated through actions. And perhaps Capricorn's ghosting isn't about you not deserving an explanation. Perhaps it's about Capricorns finally deciding that they no longer deserve to spend emotional energy on those who have already proven not to value what was being offered. Capricorn has an immense capacity for loyalty, for building deep and lasting relationships, and for being the pillar that supports others. But this ability can only be manifested when directed towards people who truly value it, who understand that consistency is not a guarantee, it's a gift. That loyalty is not an obligation, it's a daily choice. And when Capricorn realizes they're giving gifts to those who treat them as acquired rights, ghosting isn't cruelty. It's self-protection, finally overcoming self-destructive loyalty. If you're a Capricorn watching this, you know the weight of having to choose between being understanding once again or finally choosing yourself. And if you've ever been ghosted by a Capricorn, maybe now you understand. It wasn't about you not being worth a conversation. It was about them finally valuing their own peace more than the validation of being seen as mature people. They always give closure. Capricorn ghosting isn't a bug. It's a feature. It's the result of years of learning that some people don't deserve unlimited access to their time, their energy, their vulnerability. And perhaps, just perhaps, the closure you seek shouldn't come from them. It should come from you. From your ability to recognize that when someone chooses absence, they are communicating something very clear. You crossed a line that I cannot forgive, and I respect myself too much to pretend otherwise. And if you're a Capricorn, know this. You're not obligated to be approachable to someone who hurt you. You're not obligated to educate someone who should have respected you from the start. You're not obligated to give closure to ease the conscience of someone who violated your trust. Your silence is not empty. It is a complete answer. And those who deserve to understand already understood through everything you demonstrated before disappearing. Now, I want to know from you. Have you ever had to ghost someone to protect your peace? Or have you ever been ghosted and are only now realizing that it wasn't about you not deserving an explanation, but about the other person finally choosing themselves? Leave your comments below. Let's create a space where this pain can be acknowledged without judgment. If this video deeply touched you, share it with someone who needs to understand this. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and let's continue exploring the emotional depths of the zodiac signs together. Hugs, and see you in the next video.